Welcome to the FEMAP version 11.3 What's New video series.
Anybody that works with lots of connections. We wrote a connection data surface that we had in 11.2, and it works great. That's still there if anyone's using it, but what we did was came up with a new tool. We just call it the Connection Manager, and instead of doing it region versus region, we now put just your connections in order. The regions are there, the target and the master, but also all their information. So you can now sort by property, you can sort by location in the model, you can filter by these items. So now if you've got a bunch of contact regions and you want to adjust all the ones that are a certain water line in your model, you can now sort by that water line, get just those contact regions, edit them all at once. It's a real nice tool for editing your connections in contact. Element face picking. In FEMAP, you basically, when you're picking faces for putting on pressure loads or creating contact regions or anything, you need to pick faces. We would ask you first which elements do you want to consider for face picking, and then have you pick the faces. We rewrote this just to streamline it so that if you got something on screen, it just assumes those are the elements you want to pick faces from and not anything else that's not shown. And then you just pick one face and it grabs the connected ones and you're ready to go. So it has greatly streamlined the number of clicks for putting on any type of pressure load on the inside of a body or something, or creating connection regions. The thing I like to show with this is just a new empty model. I'm going to bring in an existing Nastran file. And this is just a mesh. There's no geometry, there's nothing. It's just a hex mesh, a bunch of little pieces that form probably a coffee table or something. But together with the draw erase, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into draw mode right now and pick by element, and I'm going to set this to pick front. So I can quickly now go in here and pick one element in that leg and just go down these 6 legs. And I've picked one element, and our selector also has an add all connected element, so it's going to automatically go out and grab everything in those legs. And now I say OK, and that's what I'm drawing, so I was going into draw mode. So now to create connection regions, I'm just going to create a new region. Instead of asking me which elements do you want to consider for face picking, it's now just assuming I want to use the ones that are currently being drawn and asking me to just go ahead and pick a face. So now I just go pick a face and I'm done. I've made that connection region. You can just pan down to the next one, create a connection region. Pan down to the next one, create another connection region. Oh, did that wrong, multiple. And then the neat thing with this draw erase, I can do the flip. And now I could go create the other side of the connection region just by picking a face on that side. And now I got that. So you can pretty quickly now go create both sides of your connection regions from a mesh, have those things ready to go, and get your model all connected up. And this also works anytime you're picking faces. So later on in another model, I'll show you how if you want to pick some big flat area and smooth the elements or do something. This face picking now, you just pick one, it goes and gets the rest. And here's the slide version of that entire demo. Original thing, draw just those legs, pick the regions on those legs, flip it over and grab the other side, and now you're ready to set up your connection. Most of us have to create mid-surface models with beams of stiffener, so we use a lot of beams. And what we did here was try to make your beam modeling and also the documentation of your beam properties a lot nicer. In FEMAP in the past, we always had our own standard sections. We had the standard Nastran sections, the P-beam-Ls, P-bar-Ls, and we would put up the words for what you were going to type in, but we never showed you what they really meant. So you'd enter like height, width, you kind of guess which one we're talking about and see how the thing changed. We now throw up here a nice picture, shows you what we mean by height and width and which is top and bottom and all that. So now it's a lot easier to type those in. And then once you type those in, we've added this window here that immediately does the basic calculations. So you see your areas, your inertias, you see the principal axes, you see the centroid. And then the next calculation is a little bit more intense, so we don't do it automatically. But if you press this little button in the bottom left corner, that runs the little miniature finite element solve we do to calculate the shear center and the torsional properties. So then once you press that button, it will display the shear center, it will add the torsion properties, and the cross-section is pretty much complete. And then since all of us are creating these models that we have to document, there's a nice button you press, copies that entire thing to the clipboard. You go over to Word or wherever your document and drop it in. You get a real nice report of your beam section together with all its properties. And then you can also save it to a file too if you want to just save it out that way. Arbitrary cross section. So that does all the properties and any section, and you can pick like a parasolid surface. You can draw your own surface in FEMAP and get all these same things. And here's the Nastran standard sections. At least the FEMAP ones were called height and width. You did have some idea what you were typing in. Nastran just has dimension 1, dimension 2, dimension 3, dimension 4. But now you can see them. This has been a customer request numerous times over the years. We've always had front picking, but front picking was really like a single thing at a time. And front picking is kind of difficult because if you have a million elements in your database, you got to burn through a million elements or come up with some algorithm to do it. Our graphics guy came up with this real neat thing where he keeps off-screen bitmaps with the ID information and burned in every pixel, so that then when you're front picking, all it needs to know is what pixel you're on top of, and it already knows the idea what's in front because it keeps track of the last thing drawn. The caveat here, though, we actually debated calling it pixel picking. The thing to remember that if your element or curve or surface didn't get even a single pixel on screen, so you're zoomed way out on a million element model and there's only 9 pixels, there's only 9 things that are going to get picked. But once you're zoomed in enough that you can see the things, they're going to get picked. And it is really, really fast. So right now, again, you can turn that on and off if you just want to pick the old way, which a box pick always goes all the way through the model. But if you've got front on, and I'll just do like list, model, element, it's now it's just as fast, almost no matter how big the model gets, because it's just looking at pixels. The old one would take a long time. The new one now is fast. And now you could also polygon pick and only get the things that were in front, so it doesn't pick anything behind. So it's going to be really handy for, again, pressure loads to anything that you're picking on the outside is something that's going to be pretty handy. And the speed is what's really neat. Small customer requests. The little icon you get for a property in FEMAP always showed an I-beam as if everybody's model was made out of a million I-beams. We now actually show you if it's a plate or a shear, you get a different little symbol. And if you're using some of the Nastran standard sections, you get the symbol that matches the standard section. And it's not a big thing, but at least it helps you look at something and know that it's a plate. If you're going in, if you're meshing plates, we used to list every property. You could go pick a beam property and it would say, no, you can't mesh with that. No, you can't mesh with that. We only show you the ones that you can mesh with now. So if you're creating beam elements, it only shows you the line properties. If you're meshing with plates, it only shows you the shell properties. If you're meshing with solids, it only shows you the solid properties. There's now a renumber all option. And if you just go in there and say renumber all, okay, it renumbers all, 1 to whatever. But you can control everything individually if you wanted. We have this custom tools, and this is simply in the FEMAP directory. There's a folder called API, and inside API there are little basic files or executable files. Most of them that we've written or customers have sent us. But here's kind of there are customizations on top of FEMAP that are available, and they're right on. They get installed with FEMAP. If you add one, it immediately becomes available in this menu, but there's a bunch of handy things in here. But we found in a corporate environment, a lot of people want to have their own, so we added a second button, and I called it some other place. You can now point this to another network directory, so if someone else in the company writes a nice little API that shows the max strain on all composite elements in your model, they can just drop it on that network location. Everybody that's using FEMAP will see it and start using it. So you can have your own local ones that you keep yourself, and then you can have a whole other batch of company-approved ones.